Hi friends, I'm Crystal Bessie, the Louisiana Farm to School Program Director. This month's Louisiana Harvest of the Month is not a plant or an animal. It's often mistakenly called a vegetable, but it's actually the fruit of a fungus. It's mushrooms. These tasty toadstools prefer to grow in the dark. In fact, they require no sunlight at all. But today, we're going to shed some light on what it takes to get these meaty, nutritious mushrooms from the farm to your fork. Have you ever wondered why you don't see fields of mushrooms like you do other crops? That's because mushrooms are the most uniquely grown foods in the produce aisle. Mushrooms are considered fungi, and unlike plants, they don't have chlorophyll to help them make their own food through photosynthesis. Instead, they get all of their nutrients through the organic matter right where they grow. Most mushroom farming happens indoors year-round, and today we're going to follow their journey here at Mushroom Maggie's farm in Saint Francisville, Louisiana. I'm here with Maggie and her husband Cyrus, the owners of Mushroom Maggie's farm. So how did you guys get into mushrooms? How did you get into farming? How did you choose that?
So Maggie came to me one day and was like, start a farm with me. And I'm like, what are we gonna grow? You know, neither one of us have ever farmed before. So we just started researching. So mushrooms were the second most profitable crops and required the least amount of startup cash for small farmers.
So mushrooms are decomposers, and so what they do is they consume their entire growing medium, and for us it's sawdust, and they consume it with mycelium, which is the actual fungus.
Mycelium looks like a root system. However, it is the root system and the tree. Mushrooms are just the fruit body. It's like the apple from the tree.
Well, I'd love to really take a look at this process. Can we go inside?
Absolutely, let's go.
Sounds good to me. Let's check it out. So it all begins in this area right here. This is what we call the mixing and bagging area. What we do here is we take hardwood sawdust, soybean hulls, and rice bran, and we mix it all together on these tables by hand. We add water to it to bring the moisture content of the substrate up to about 60%. And once everything is mixed together and added together, we bag it in these bags right here. These are mushroom growing bags. They have a little filter patch on there so the mycelium can breathe, but it's a very small micron filter so that contaminants cannot get in or out of the bag, so that only our mushrooms grow inside of here and nothing else. They're steamed for about a full day, basically, and once they cool down in there, we bring them to our lab.
All right, well, let's go. Let's see what the next step is.
So we are in our lab. This is where all things inoculation happen.
So you inoculate the grain here, and then these bags as well, the fruiting bags.
Right. Well, like I said, we can start from a mushroom to the plate, to the grain, to the fruiting block, and that all has to take place in here. Because it's all the only place that it can get it done without being contaminated.
Okay, so I've got a bag here that's been inoculated. We're going to take this over to Cyrus in the colonization room. Okay, so it's a little bit warmer in here than it is outside. Tell me a little bit about the colonization room.
Basically, we take a mushroom, we break it open, and we take a tissue sample out of the middle of the mushroom, and we will put it on agar in a petri dish. And it will take about 2 weeks for the entire, for the mushroom, the fungus, to colonize the plate. It looks kind of like a spider web. This is a fully colonized bag of grain spawn.
And so this is all the mycelium you're seeing in there.
Right. You can do 50 blocks, 50 fruiting blocks with that one bag of grain. This petri dish right here can grow millions of mushrooms.
Wow.
But here's one that's, let's see, about a week old. And you can start seeing the mycelium
just a little bit there.
Just starting to spread out through here. Then here's one that's a little bit older. See, they'll turn completely white for the most part. The mycelium itself will get very thick.
I see.
And that's the fruiting blocks telling us that they're ready to fruit, basically. So once they're ready to fruit, we bring them into our fruiting room. Everybody wants to see that one, so
Yeah.
I'll show you. Come on.
Okay. I want to learn a little bit more about fruiting, but before we do, let's visit Judy and see what she has cooking up in the kitchen.
Hi, I'm Judy Myhan, instructor in the School of Nutrition and Food Sciences at LSU. I've loved edible mushrooms since the first time I tried them. My father would grill a steak and then my mother would add the mushrooms. In my kitchen, mushrooms make an A+. Nutrition's very important to me as a teacher of nutrition, and mushrooms are very nutrient dense. And what nutrient dense means is that they deliver a lot of nutrients, very few calories. So that means it's great to add them to your diet. Now, one thing I want to make sure you know is not all mushrooms are edible. Some can make you very ill if you eat them, so make sure that a knowledgeable person has identified them as edible.
So I always tell people not to wash mushrooms. They already have a lot of moisture inside of them, so they can end up getting waterlogged if you do anything like that. And you also don't even really need to wipe them down, especially anything that you buy from us. They're all grown indoors in a controlled setting, so you don't really have to worry about that. They're kind of good to go.
Right. Well, I know they're full of water, and that's something that when we're cooking with mushrooms we have to keep in mind. And that is that they are 90% water.
Right.
And if you want them to brown, you've got to take a lot of care. Alan and I were talking about it earlier about how you need to have the temperature really hot if you want them to brown.
Yep.
And to be careful not to add any salty ingredients early in the cooking process because that draws the water out.
Correct.
Unless you want to draw the water out, which is what we did when we made this mushroom jerky.
That looks awesome.
Isn't it? Can you smell it? Yeah. Okay, so we did salt it. So think about that as a great snack, right? So if you have an abundant harvest of mushrooms and you don't know what to do with them, one of the things you can do is make mushroom jerky. So another thing that I did to cook mushrooms was I roasted them. So I heated the oven up to about 425.
Nice and hot.
Again, I put them on a pan, separated them really well, put some shallots in there, and roasted them. Oh man, yum.
That is really good.
Oh yeah.
So the mushrooms that I used for this were the gray oyster mushrooms.
Right.
And all I did was tear them apart and put them on the baking sheet with some oil and a little bit of soy sauce and put them in the oven. Baked them for about 15 minutes. It didn't take very long at all. I did slice a few shallots in there, but they're delicious. Simple, easy to make, great tasting. One of the things that we did is we experimented with using mushrooms and mixing them in with rice, making it sort of jambalaya style so that the mushrooms gave it a real meaty flavor. And everybody really enjoyed it. So that is our Harvest of the Month recipe that is available for people to use in the schools.
If you want to try mushrooms, please get out Saturday morning, every Saturday, 8 to 12. We're downtown, Baton Rouge, and we will give you some mushrooms to take home and try.
All right, very good. So now we're going to go to the fruiting room where Crystal will be learning a little bit more about growing mushrooms.
So here we are in our fruiting rooms. So this is where the blocks come from the colonization room. We bring them in here to the fruiting rooms where we do a temperature change. So the temperature goes down, it gets lower and colder, and then we increase the humidity, which means we just spraying water in the air with a misting system. And we have many different varieties of the mushrooms in here. When you think mushroom, you think earthy flavor. That's the umami flavor.
So umami is like the 5th basic taste, and
Exactly.
it technically means delicious. But
Right.
Thank you so much, Maggie and Cyrus, for having us out at Mushroom Maggie's farm today. We really appreciate it. I know that I've learned so much, and so thanks for giving us the tour.
No problem. Thank you for coming out.
The Louisiana Harvest of the Month program showcases a different Louisiana food each month in Louisiana communities. We hope you will join us in tasting Louisiana this month.